want to remind you all that at the end you can come get an envelope for Lama Lena, who doesn't ask for any money for her teaching. And if you don't have cash, you can use this QR code here. And you can bring one of these katas up and hand it to her.
Kata's the important part.
And she will give you a
Magic.
blessing, and you will then give her your envelope, or your virtual envelope.
You might want to do that thing where you touch the screen and you bring it in.
Yeah. They're not on this list, but it's Saturday and Sunday from 1 to 3 on Saturday, from 2 to 4 on Sunday. It's not on this list, but the rest of the schedule is.
Because we just upped and put it on.
And more stuff will pop up, so feel free to like Lola Badriana on Facebook if you want to keep up with upcoming events. We still have bunks and private rooms available for the Cypress Bayou Retreat, May 2nd through 6th.
Remind me at the end to announce that to the people out there.
This is going to be amazing. And I'm going to put these auction papers out after she's finished, and there's some incredible items on that table. We can tell you about them when she's done. At the end, we can spend time with that.
Was that gonna be the next weekend?
I'm sorry?
What is the topic for next weekend?
I'm going to teach Why Does Samsara Hurt? On Saturday. You know, why does life hurt? Really basic. But important to understand how that works, because if you know how it works, you can duck. And Sunday is an open Q&A on the internet. I usually do that once a month. So it's people who come and people out there. Just asking anything you ever wanted to know about Dharma. So that's next weekend. It's a chance for people to ask the weird questions that they never got a chance to ask a Lama. But I'm not a scholar, so sometimes I don't know. You try to classify everything, get me to classify, is it Mother Tantra, 7th division of this? And I don't know, but here's how it works. Different training, yogi versus Kempo. Or Naljorma work versus Kempo. Nyando, you'll tell me when you're ready.
We are live.
We are live, good. Hi guys, we are live. And this is the last of the teachings. Before I start, because I'm going to forget at the end, big retreat coming up. We've still got places out on the bayou. It is a retreat used to dislocate oneself from one's clinging to a specific point in the time-space continuum. We cling to here and now, but we're never quite here and now. It's an odd dichotomy. We're disassociated from all and everything, making up stories. And we do that by a tight hanging onto a belief system about the time-space continuum. This week-long retreat will boot that off the cliff.
4-day retreat.
Oh, is it only 4 days?
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You go home Monday morning.
Oh. I was told a week. Okay. How am I going to fit that in? Well, we'll do the best we can. It's 10 days in Europe, which gives me time to really make that work. I will be making the attempt during this 4-day retreat to boot you off the cliff of your clinging to a single point in the time-space continuum. That's what it does. I hope we have time. How did that change?
You have a cabin for a week, but participants have a cabin. It's always been for 4 days, 2 nights.
Why do I have a cabin for a week? Oh, maybe Jan wanted to stay?
Initially, the place that you're staying in now was rented out.
Gotcha. So I don't need a cabin for a week. You want to check with Jan?
It's been changed.
Okay.
We can talk about that.
Yeah, sorry. A bit of confusion. Things keep changing, and either someone told me and I wasn't listening at the time, which is mea culpa, or nobody told me. I'll never know. You will never know in your situations like that, whether you forgot or nobody ever told you. Nobody knows what's real around here. And nobody ever will. Chuku kundu songpo gomboyi, dorji sempa garab dorji dang, shere singe bardu shin labdi, de damab zantata tusum chi, Dzogchen jupe lamala solwa deb, ergin pema junela solwa deb. Dorji chang chi tilo narudang, marpa mila gompo tsatsapa, na pupadang palden drupa suk, kargyu lama namla solua deb. O chen lama namla solua deb. Dzogchen lama namla solwa deb. Kagi nuari lama namla solwa deb. Shakya lama namla solwa deb. Nyandudang yundran lama namla solwa deb. Pa kwandu zhongdang yerme, pa gon garab dorji jintrag, pa jetidang nisume pai, pa lamanam chetinti chong. Refuge and Bodhisattva in the form of Guru Yoga. You will need refuge because there's nothing else to stand on out here. When you let go of your usual refuges, such as money, status, your own home paid off. Yeah, but then comes a Katrina. You can't count on those usual refuges. The stillness has never moved. It will not shake under you. The stillness is alive and vital, with the ability to move without motion, the dance of creativity. It is the kusum, kunchok sum, the three jewels. You know how you say around here, oh my God? Tibetans say kunchok sum. Like sometimes when they stub their toe, they say jakpa, which means the same thing you would say in English. But kunchok sum is the three jewels, the three kayas, Dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya, Nirmanakaya. The infinite, vast expanse of mind itself. The where, not the what of your thinking, feeling, and perceiving. But not a big dead old nuttin', because it can be creative. Thinking, feeling, perceiving is its creation. It is creative. But it creates its creation out of nothing other than itself. The vitality that permits the creation is the midpoint of the Sambhogakaya. You'll now identify with that rather than your itty-bitty, currently manifest this moment's personality that's going to change anyway. It ain't stable. You can't count on it. Those of you who have not experienced old age may not believe me in this, but the changes are quite alarming. In order to bounce with them, your abilities as a young person, your athleticism, your incredible immune system that lets you drink the Ganges without any harm, your ability to walk up to Base Camp Everest in a pair of flip-flops and a longi. Because what the fuck? Anyway, you were stoned. All of that you count on, that is your refuge when you're young, yeah, I can do it. Yeah, I bounce. Yeah, I can figure it out. I'm smart. I got this really good, strong little body. It's going to do what I want. You know, all that crap wears off. So don't take refuge in your abilities or your athleticism. They wear off. Don't take refuge in your sharp intelligence. It wears off. Beyond time and space is utterly trustworthy. It is unborn, undying, so it won't wear off. It is the antidote to all hopes and fears. You run around in samsara chasing stuff and running from stuff. Run from your taxes, chase your rent money on whatever level you're doing it. You know you're never going to catch that. The ability to say these two words juxtaposed, enough and money, is a very rare ability. And it does not depend on how much you've got. You find a homeless guy and you give him $1,000, and he thinks he now has enough money for anything he could possibly want. You give a millionaire $1,000, and that's not going to make a dent in all the stuff he wants. Your wants just grows with your income until you learn to say, yeah, I have enough money. My stomach is full. You're going to be chasing the inferior will-o'-the-wisps of your wants and running from the inferior will-o'-the-wisps of your fears until you actually learn to take refuge in the infinite, open, vast expanse of alive awareness, luminous and lucid, shimmering with the creativity of all phenomena, both inner and outer. So how do you get there? Confidence directly in liberation of rising thoughts. Sopa is the word. The spontaneous action of non-action and your own inherent certainty of that. If you want to write it down, that's the one you write down. Spontaneous action of non-action and your own inherent certainty and sureness of the spontaneous action of non-action. Don't expect the words to make sense yet. They'll make absolute sense when you see it. De-tse chak-dang, gaduk-dang. At that point, whether attachment or aversion, desire or aversion, happiness or sorrow, whatever's going on for you in this exact moment, lo purnam tok malupa, all these momentary thoughts making up the nam talk, all these little bitty nams that are talking each other, the thoughts, these single little tiny ones, each and every one of them, the nams, not the talk. Ngo she ngang la jetu me. Upon recognition, leave not a trace behind. Have a thought. Pick a thought. Pick another one. And another. Go on, be thinking. Where'd that first thought go? Do you even know what it was? What about the third? What became of it? You store it somewhere? Is it in your pocket? Only in dream time can you occasionally pick up a thought and stick it in your pocket so it troubles you later. Not around here. Note to dream yogis, don't put things in your pocket there. Each and every single thought you think is without substance. You cannot place an object on it. It is also without duration. Too tiny. When you look at what you think is a thought, we're going to think of a cherry tree. You see it in your mind's eye. See how it flickers? The picture? Really fast flicker. What's happening is each single picture is dissolving and vanishing. You're putting another one, which is similar but not exactly the same, if you're a picture thinker. If you're a word thinker, the word cherry tree, you keep repeating it, thinking of a cherry tree. And you think of all the things about the cherry tree, the texture of its bark at one point, and then the next point you're looking at the branching pattern, or the pretty flowers, or the cherries peeking through the leaves. You're thinking lots of thoughts about a topic, not a single thought. You can't keep a thought. They lack duration. Please examine your thoughts right now to see if that is correct or not. See if you can find one and keep it without it changing or flickering. Even your tawa flickers. Even when you shift your attention wide open to the stillness, to the vastness, you are only able, because you are actually having a very subtle thought about it, rather than seeing it as it is, you're subtly seeing it as I've told you it is, or you think it is. So you see a flick, there's going to be each individual one lacks duration. How fast they flicker. So the arising of a single thought and the dissolving of a single thought are simultaneous. This is the meaning of lax duration. When a thing lacks duration, it cannot be found to be real. Loburanam tok malupa, all momentary thoughts, each and every one of these lacking in duration, single nams. Ngoshe nangla jetume, upon recognition, leave not a trace behind. If I tell you to sit and watch your thoughts, I've seen people misunderstand that. And they sit and watch what the thoughts say. This is not the point. It doesn't matter what the thoughts say. Do not pay attention to what they say. Pay attention to their lack of substance and duration. Watch the thoughts as if they were a multitude of many-shaped bugs in a line crawling across the table. Each one different. And you were an entomologist. No, that's not quite a good analogy. Beads on a string run through your fingers. So you sit with your channels in alignment. You relax yourself. You open wide your gaze so that the central point of your vision and the peripheral points are balanced, equally clear. That is, you unfocus, you're 2 meters ahead and unfocus your eyeball as the instructions have been given. Now, early on, I said, shut up, stop talking to yourself. You don't have to do that here. You've matured to the point where you don't have any need to stop the thoughts. Let them roll, but don't pay attention to what they say. Do not get since thoughts ride the chi, and that simple action slows and settles the chi. It will assist the thoughts to slow down a bit and settle, making it easier to notice the individual nam, the bits. Watch them. Watch your thoughts without listening to them. See how they happen and unhappen spontaneously without your having to get rid of them in any way. They're gone. Each and every one of them is gone. If they're still too fast, you can tip your head down a little bit. That also slows them down. You have a throttle here. Faster when you're falling asleep, getting sludgy, getting dull. Slower when they're too fast and you can't manage to get a glimpse between them. You can also control the speed with coffee. Surprisingly, marijuana makes them louder. That's why it's so good with a good movie and popcorn. But not really useful for this. Them louder makes them more likely to catch you up in the story they're telling. Makes the story more fun. So do your practice before you blow the joint. Okay? Unless you're really, really good at it and have been doing it for 20 years. Then it shouldn't make any difference whether you're stoned or sober. Alcohol will slow them down up to the point of about half a beer. More than that, and it will change the texture of the awareness. But for most people, about half of a beer, when they're really too fast, will slow them down, will drop the chi. So yes, you can use things like coffee and alcohol to adjust the speed, if those are things that you normally use. Don't start up using them if you don't, nor do you have to not be clean and sober. Do not use valerian tea. Clogs the channels. You may use chamomile to slow them down, but not valerian. Valerian's a funny plant to work with. It has wonderful medicinal uses psychically, but you got to know what you're doing. Don't go play with it. And yeah, it's down in the herb shop and everybody uses it to go to sleep, and it's not a good idea for a practitioner without training. Other things work. I am not sure about kava kava. I have not experimented with it much. I think in small doses, similar to the half a beer, it would slow things down. Just as I know damn well coffee speeds them up, because I'm an inveterate coffee drinker. It's how I can keep talking for an hour and a half. No coffee, no talkie. All these thoughts that we've been having as I talk, find me the one that happened 2.3 seconds ago. Gone, isn't it? Like learning the law of gravity, you can sit on your cushion. You can either relax into the open vastness and let your thoughts slow down and stop. But that's shine. That's a nice vacation, a good holiday. It's good for you like vitamins, but it's not the end-all, be-all. You want to become so sure of the non-reality of your thoughts that they can't fool you into thinking they're real. You do that by watching them arise and vanish simultaneously. They leave no mark, like writing on the surface of water. You can leave no mark behind. If you write on stone with a chisel, it lasts a long time. If you write in the snow, it still lasts a while. But if you write on the water, no mark is left. Thoughts are like that. And your infinite open awareness is the water, in which they arise and vanish, leaving no mark. But each one leads to the next, making up the story you're telling yourself that hurts. You'll not be free of that story, of your own insufficiency, of your own pain until you see the nature of what it's made of again and again enough to become sure. Roche chuku ngo wei. For recognize the Dharmakaya in which they are freed, the very special way they are freed. So, at least I know most of us women can pay attention to two things at the same time. I'm going to assume guys can do it too. Or can learn to. Even us Aspies who have these amazing powers of single focus, point focus, can learn to some extent. So as you pay attention to how the thoughts arise and vanish, also pay attention to that in which they arise and vanish. For those of you who've had babies, the instructions are really simple to understand. You know how when it's little, you always know where it is? Like the first 3 years, 2 years? Just, it's in the back of your mind. Where's the kid? What's it gotten into? The moment there's silence, where's the kid? What's it into? Because they know to be quiet when they're into what they shouldn't be. So you know how it's just sort of automatic. You got the kid in the back of your mind when it's little. By the time they're teenagers, you're tired of this and you can not think about them for a whole hour. But when they're little ones, since they're so damn accident prone, and they seem to be trying to get themselves into something that's going to off themselves, you know, as their project for the first 2 years. That awareness of where the little kid is, of where the toddler is, that's the same attention I want you to put on your practice. All the time, where are your thoughts? Arising and vanishing, arising and vanishing, arising and vanishing. Keep it in the back of your mind like you got, where's the kid? Let's see, I got to do something for those of you who haven't got kids. Driving. You can eat a sandwich, hold a conversation, and listen to music while you drive. Right? But you're going to notice if the road curves. You're going to notice if somebody cuts in front of you. You still got one eye on the road, even though you're doing all these other things. So you're going through life doing all these other things. But just like when you're driving and got one eye on the road, you got one eye on the Dharmakaya. Do it like that. This was a how-to, this part. So I want any questions both out in the far out and in the near out. Questions on how to do this? Yes.
I find it helpful to close my eyes. Is that
I would recommend you avoid it and simply place yourself in a place where there's nothing interesting in front of your face. The Japanese, the Zen, use a white wall. We sometimes go up in a high place where the sky is not like up there, but like up on the balcony or the roof. The breeze is better up there anyway. Don't let the sun fall on your head while meditating outdoors, even on a cold day. Because your eyes dilate and you don't want a little bit to fall into your eyes because it can do some damage. So you either got a hat with a brim or put an umbrella over you. Now, that is instructions for at altitude, like Tibet, where the sun is really fierce, even when it's very cold. Never meditate with the sun on your head. Put on a hat, put on something. I honestly don't know if that transfers here to sea level. If you want to take the risk and try it, But that's the original Tibetan instructions. But the point being, facing the sky is also pretty good, especially on a clear day or an overcast day, not when there's interesting clouds to riff off of. So the reason you keep your eyes open is because you're going to be doing this while walking around. And if you close your eyes, you're going to bump into the wall. Tibetans are practical. You start out meditating with your eyes at least a little bit open, because by the end you need to be able to meditate in the midst of, herding your sheep, which means, you got to have your eyes open. So you don't want to have to change it. It's like why we don't start with focusing on the breath, because you can't remove the breath. We use a pebble because you can always throw away a pebble, or a little statue, or a candle. So see if you can put something in front of you more than 2 meters away that is uninteresting. Rather than face your altar, you might want to turn around and then face the other wall. For those of you who have that problem of being distracted with your eyes open, try those. Other questions?
So when you start being an observer of your thoughts, of your daily activities, is what you said, it doesn't get too insubstantial or boring. I'm watching, for example, when you watch someone dancing, other than
It's not quite like that. That would be if you were watching the content of your thoughts. Okay, you would watching, and we do a practice of that to show just how boring it is. You go off by yourself for an hour and you say everything you think out loud. It's reruns after 5 minutes. Dumb reruns. If you don't believe me, try it and see. So, if you're not looking at the content, you're looking through the transparent thoughts at the ground of mind itself. Without suppressing the thoughts, you are also watching them as they are transparent, but you can still see my water glass even though it's transparent. So you are also watching the thoughts arise and vanish, not their content. Not what they say, but how they plip, plip, plip. Does that answer make some sense to you? Talk to me about it.
Yeah, I haven't tried that. Maybe I will.
Yeah, it's really easy to misunderstand this instruction, which is why I'm really careful about giving it. Watch your thoughts. People start watching what the thoughts say, as if it was a movie. So you pay attention to the content. When you watch television, you pay attention to the content of the story, not the screen on which it's projected. So next time you watch television, don't watch television. Don't watch the story. See if you can watch the screen and pay no attention to the story. Maybe easier with a very boring TV show of the kind you don't like. That's an analogy. So what you want to do is pay attention to the infinite, vast expanse, Longchen Rabjam, the openness in its lucid, luminous, vital awareness, allowing the thoughts to come and go without listening to what they say, but seeing how they do that, each and every one of them, whether it's a thought of a persimmon or an enemy or a friend, doesn't matter. How does it arise and vanish? How long does a single thought last? You look at that, not what they say. Questions from out in the internet land?
Yes. Ooh, excuse me. One question is, sometimes after meditation, GOM, I feel like my mind wants an entertainment. What should I do?
You may have an entertainment. To force yourself not to would squish things. You don't want to squish it. Go ahead and read a book, or take a walk, or have a beer with friends, or turn on your computer and play with your whatever. However, interrupt your entertainment at frequent moments by checking to see if your if tawa is still there. So let's see you've been having a session on the cushion. And now you feel you want an entertainment, so you're going to phone a friend because you feel like talking, or you're going to go on Facebook or Twitter or whatever you personally like to go on. While you're doing that, in between each tweet that you read, or each 5 tweets, I don't remember how fast they are because I do have a Twitter account, but I don't do much on it. Other people help me with that. I'm a little too old to have conditioned social media as a teenager, so for me it's work. In between every, say, 5 tweets that you read, take a moment and check and see if Longchen Rabjam is still there. Infinite vast expanse, open awareness. And then go on with your entertainment. This is what you would do without not giving yourself entertainment, just periodically. If you're reading, when you turn the page, check. Make it a habit. Every time, if you're reading on your Kindle, every time you flip it, your finger goes like that, quick check. That's actually better than forcing yourself not to be entertained, because you will make a constriction. Constrictions are counterproductive in this path. You may consider them digpa. Don't force it. You cannot force it. This is not Puritan. If you were raised Presbyterian or in one of the Puritan-derived religions, you might want to look at how you're applying that to this and realize that it doesn't fit.
Yeah, I think you answered my question, but during my practice, it changes the time that I'm on the cushion, changes with the seasons. So sometimes in the spring and summer, I have to do a physical practice before I get on the cushion. Is it, in the beginning, is it better to do consistent same time of day?
It is good to have one session that is consistent same time of day. But because of your youth, your days will vary in what you are required to do. I mean, you've got work, school, and maybe even kids. When you're young, you've got a lot you got to get done. Fortunately, that wears off. But you'll have to adjust your day's practice around what your day is doing. I mean, nobody spends that much time on the cushion during Mardi Gras. Please spend 3 minutes when you first wake up, no matter how hungover you are, on the cushion during Mardi Gras. That's all. Because you're busy. You're also hungover or drunk. Unless you're clean and sober, in which case just the energy, you got contact highs. So you will have to adjust, be flexible, without tricking yourself.
What do you mean?
You can trick yourself into not practicing at all.
Girl, yes.
So try to avoid doing that.
Okay.
Try to avoid lying to yourself and like today is too full. If it really isn't. And do set aside one regular time and one minimum that works for you. And that can be 3 minutes. I always sit for 3 minutes, even if I'm catching a plane when I first wake up. Or something like that. Because sometimes, if you're catching a morning flight, it's like 3 a.m. you're trying to get your teeth brushed because you got to get there an hour early and da, da, da. So, yeah, you want to be flexible, but to live outside the law, you must be honest. My experience has been that the Galupa have the most of them, but the Shakya have a lot too. The Bon have them, but they're different. So, in Dzogchen, we don't have those. So you must be self-honest to make it work. Otherwise, you'll just trick yourselves. Other questions on the how-to of this, because it's important.
Yes, there's a number of questions about things that affect the speed or quality of thought and whether it makes sense to abstain from those things. Examples we've got are things like coffee, tobacco, sex.
To live outside the laws, you must be honest. No, you don't have to abstain from those things. Just be clear about what their action is and whether you do them before or after your session and in what quantities. There's an amount of coffee beyond which I don't go, believe it or not. Now, the same goes for alcohol, believe that or not. There is a limit to how much wine I will drink. It might be a scary limit. The point I am making for you here is that no, behave sensibly with these substances. If you know that grass makes your thoughts louder and more distracting, reserve it when you're going to do something that is appropriate for, such as watch a movie or go to a party with friends. It makes this conversation seem more scintillating. It really isn't any better. No laws, guys. No abstention, no lack of abstention. Know yourself and what works for you. And don't trick yourself. Be honest. Other questions out there?
Yes, one of our, let me find it, here we go. One of our Georgian viewers says, when I practice, I feel joyful nothingness between inhale and exhale, and then the desire to stay there arises, but I lose it once I breathe again. What is your advice?
Breathe. Usually that still point of relaxation is found most easily at the end of the exhale before the inhale. And in some practices, there are patterns of breathing that are used to help. In this practice, you should be breathing at least 80% through the nose. Your lips should be slightly apart. Your tongue lies naturally by the roof of your mouth, just where it lands. But a little bit of air should pass through your mouth. Now, I automatically, because of other practices I do, have my in-breath take less time than my out-breath. You can try that with this. I find it helpful. But a person who asked me that question out there, is a meditative experience that comes and goes with each breath. You can try hitting it with pet to pop it and seeing what's behind it. But it sounds like it's such a fast one that might be difficult. In which case, simply cease to seek or want to perpetuate it. Let go. The trick to Dzogchen is to let go of your hopes and fears. Relax into the practice of this. Let go of your hopes and fears about what you're going to get out of it. Leave the arisings, your thoughts, feelings, and perceptions, to be absolutely as they are. This is the key point to Dzogchen, so do not attempt to maintain things. Yes, there is practice. Do it without hope of a result for best results. Other questions out there?
There's a number asking, what is Dharmakaya? Can you expand on that a bit? How
In
do you
words?
how do you know when you're seeing it is the gist of a number of questions. What is it so that I can know what it is when I see it?
But you can't. It is indescribable. So if you're really seeing it, you're going to find yourself seeing something you can't put in words. Okay? Doesn't fit in words. Yes, I use words to point it out to you, but those of you who are seeing it, it's bigger than infinite, vast expanse. Wider, opener. All the words arise within it as thoughts, dissolve within it as thoughts. There is no descriptive that is accurate. If you are not sure you are seeing it, continue to seek it by using whatever means to shift your attention from what you are thinking about it, about the Dharmakaya, all your descriptives, all of your uncertainties. Is it real or isn't it? Did I find it or didn't it? Am I good enough or aren't I? Those are thoughts. That is the content of the thoughts. Let go. Don't suppress them. Don't try to stop thinking. Let go of the words of what you are thinking. Relax into and as the thinker. There are no words to describe this in its totality. This is a bell. This is a finger. It points at the bell. It doesn't ring. I use words to point. But my finger will never ring. Next question.
One of our Spanish viewers asks, some masters say that seeing the nature of the mind is something that changes you radically. And you've been speaking about frequent glimpses of tawa and repeating that practice many times. They're saying they're confused about the difference between these two ideas. Is it instantaneous or is it practiced many times?
Yes. Utterly depends on the individual. It is instantaneous, but that instant comes as a result of previous instants which lead up to it. The previous instances are called practice. Remember the dartboard. All I'm asking you now is to get the dart on the board, not the wall. I don't care where. And then we're gonna practice, and over time, you will eventually hit the bullseye. And that instant will change you. So both are true. Right now, you just gotta hit the dartboard. Right now, before you start this, I mean, the dartboard's over there. You're throwing your darts every which way, hitting the customers and the beer. Well, that won't work. At least I've got you all aimed at the right wall now. If you're not hitting the board yet, you'll come to it. Keep practicing. I got 90% of you aimed at the right wall. Other questions out there?
Yes. Is it beneficial to use digpa or constrictive feelings as a cue to glance at tawa?
For you, yes.
There's one other question here about on the same lines. Sometimes visualizing the entire mandala of my yidam and letting it dissolve makes it easier to glance at tawa quickly, especially in intense situations. Is this okay?
Absolutely, that's a good technique. Here, hold out 2 fingers. Put your other fist around them and squeeze as tightly as you can. Not you, if your arthritis is bad. No? Okay, do it. Hard as you can. See, it won't hurt. That's how you check people's grip strength, and medically is 2 fingers. Okay, relax. Relax this hand utterly, the one you grabbed with. See how it's easier to relax it after that moment of grabbing, of tightening? Hence, at the end of a sadhana or any other complex concentration visualization, such as doing your taxes, when you finally turn away from the damn computer and look out the window at the sky and go, tawa just jumps right up at you. Some of you will find it necessary at this time in your life to tire yourself before you can easily relax into seeing. Fine, how about Sudoku and crossword puzzles? Or study something interesting. Find your own way of tiring the little thinker a bit so that it relaxes more easily. This is not necessary for everybody. Some of us are like complete sloths anyway and have no real problem relaxing. It's getting us to unrelax that can be an issue. But other people are so active and they get so much done and they may not know where the off switch is. This is a method to find the off switch. which sometimes if you want to follow an equation, you got to one-point it. More questions in here on the how-to of this. Yes?
It feels, especially with the eyes open, a little bit like zoning out, which I do frequently and I've done a lot in my life. And I guess I'm just wondering that.
Use that talent for zoning out to zone this way. Remember, you've had a lot of past lives. What is your base culture?
I was adopted from China.
From China, but what culture were you adopted by and how young? Into?
Like Filipino American.
Okay, the reason I'm asking is some cultures learn and have very much in their culture. Filipino is one of the ability to be alone in a group. Filipino culture, because it's a crowded country, in the old country, even here that ability will often be taught to children. And that can be seen as vaguing out, trancing out. It's a great talent. You can be, in a noisy place in a group of people and you can be completely alone and doing your meditation, can't you? There are some people raised in cultures that don't have that. Germanic cultures, Swedish cultures, where to be alone, you go off alone, that have a lot of trouble doing that. So you got an advantage from the Filipino culture. I'm assuming you were young enough you didn't get much of the Chinese culture. So take that advantage, your ability to zone out, and use it to do this. But instead of just going blank, which is shine, a sort of a zone out, no thoughts, which many people work really hard to master. Use it when it starts to happen to shift your attention from the what to the where as you let go of thoughts. And then whether you are thinking or not thinking, let that luminous, lucid, open vastness rest there. You may find that when the thoughts begin again, when you are done, satisfied, your timer rings, that there will be a greater creativity in your thoughts from that rest. Are you an artist of some kind? I think most people in New Orleans I've met are some kind of musician artist. So you may try, before approaching your art or your music, sometimes doing a session and seeing if it changes anything. For some people it may, not for everyone. Give it a try. Did this manage to answer your question? Any more out there?
Yes. Any advice for a practitioner who is experiencing both autism and chronic post-traumatic stress disorder?
Go see a therapist for EMDR. Know your kind of autism. What's your superpower? And what's the thing you have to compensate for? And usually there's more than one of each of those. Learn it. Use your superpower. And read a book on how to compensate for what you don't have the skill at. I recommend Miss Manners if it's social interaction. It actually works. Hey, you'd be surprised, even if it's old. I mean, some things are out of date, but her basic take on stuff, when you look past all the rules, is worth following if you're Aspie and you haven't a clue how to do that. Studied it for years. That's how come you all think I'm a normie. Hoburnam tok malupa, ngoshe nangla jitu me. All your momentary thoughts, the instantaneous arising and vanishing thoughts, each and every one of them without a single exception, upon recognition of what it is, they leave no trace behind. If you can do this during a traumatic circumstances, no PTSD. Dorje choku ngojungwei, for recognizing the Dharmakaya nature of mind in which they are freed. Pernachuyi ermojin, and just as writing vanishes on water, rangsha rangjo gunchi me. Thoughts arising and vanishing and leaving no mark, leaving no trauma behind, not catching you, not hurting you, not causing you to suffer for your belief that you're no good, that you're doing it wrong, that there's something wrong with you, that you're a bad person, that you're insufficient. Those thoughts, those bad spells you cast on yourself. This is how we cut them. Trekchö is called cutting through. You cut through the talks. And the bad spell unravels completely. How? By the instructions I'm giving you. The arising of the thoughts and the dissolving of the thoughts are simultaneous. A thought has no duration. Only mostly you don't notice this. You don't think this. You probably kind of sort of believe me when I'm telling you this, but you don't see it. You don't grok it. Grok, to understand on a gut level, sci-fi term. Common in American slang by now. So by this practicing, it becomes natural for you to be aware of this continuously while shit happens. If you are aware of this continuously while shit happens, the shit can't stick to you. PTSD is when the shit's stuck. And then you got to go to somebody who does EMDR or rolfing or any of the other modalities to get that out, to wash the shit off. Or you can do Vajrasattva, but I think EMDR is faster. So, use the tools you got. We didn't have that. But I've done it. I've had a professional come and do it with a traumatized Tibetan. And the next thing, she didn't, her cultural conditioning and the death of her children and things had left her with the belief that she was incapable of practicing Dharma and had no value. PTSD. We pulled it off with EMDR. I had a wonderful professional come out and do that with many of my patients. And the next thing I know, she's doing Nundro. She's finished Nundro. She's done her Yidam. Amazing woman. Watched her do 100,000 prostrations. She was 65. Right down there on the cement by the lake. It gave quite a pop when it came off. So this is not how to get it off, but how to keep it from sticking. If you can manage to have this become so instinctively natural and continuous that next time you're in a situation that would be traumatic, you see this happening while it happens, no trauma. It don't stick. There's nothing there to stick to in the infinite, open, vast awareness. Dharmakaya nature of mind is empty. You can as easily stick a yellow sticky to the sky as stick a trauma to real mind. Trauma gets caught in your thoughts and imprinted in your channels. Doesn't have to. Pranachuyi Rimojin, and just as writing vanishes on water, Rangsha Rangtro Gunchi Me, arising and liberation become natural and continuous due to your habit of seeing it do so. Chisha Riktong Jinpazi, and whatever arises is food for the bare Rigpa emptiness, food for the natural awareness. The arising, which is the creativity of natural mind, is what creates the aliveness that permeates Dharmakaya nature of mind. It is what places the ability to create the phenomena, and yet without phenomena it would wither. Phenomena remains. The phenomena feeds. So your trauma becomes your food rather than your problem. It feeds your practice. Like in the visualization of the mandala, where you're doing Vajrasattva and you've got Yamantaka, slayer of death, at the center of the earth, and all of your hang-ups are falling into his mouth, and he's licking them up with great relish because it's his natural food. This is all pointing at that. All your sadhanas point at this through symbols. Because in a sadhana, like in a dream, you are all the participants. You just don't necessarily visualize yourself that way in the instructions. Well, where is Yamantaka during your sadhana if not in your mind? Who are you if not your mind? Yeah? I'm just explaining how it points to this point. Jigme dak alala. Fearless, leaving no trace and innately pure. Alala. That's Tibetan for oh wow. Charluk ngardang droala. The way things arise is the same as before. Having this realization does not mean you're going to stop thinking, feeling, and perceiving. That still happens. Shit still happens. Hey, you're going to die one way or another. You're going to experience that. You're going to stub your toe. You're going to experience that. The difference is in the way of awareness that they are liberated. That's the key. You need to be aware of the liberation of each arising. Without this special point of being able to free, of being able to see the innate freeing of each thought as it arises and vanishes, your meditation will merely be a fall from nyam to nyam to nyam, and it will at the most drop you into a God realm. It will not liberate. until samsara and nirvana are brought together as the same thing. Dimegom patrol palam, without this meditation is but a path of delusion. Diden magom chokunang, with it, even without meditating, Dharmakaya is obvious. Drang drol talk to chawatine sumbo. Third vital point is certainty, confidence directly in the liberation of the thoughts as they arise. Remember the island with the maybe tigers? You get confident by practice. Practice on the cushion. Sitting and watching the thoughts do that with your attention both on how they do that, not what they say. Do not pay any attention to what the fuggers say. If you've ever had a cat, you know what I'm talking about. It's on your book. It's draped over the TV, batting at the actors. Or it's right there. So don't mind that they get more interesting or more horrible or more deadly. They'll try both. You sit there on your cushion. You watch the thoughts arise and vanish without duration, while seeing the infinite openness in which they do that, and identifying with the seer which sees them do that, which is the thinker of the thoughts and the infinite open awareness. And you sit on your cushion like that for a time. And then you get up, because your time for sitting there is done, and you go do the next thing you're gonna do. And while you're doing it, you check. Are the thoughts still doing that? Is the infinite open awareness still there? Yep, just like when it was on my cushion. And you go around. Now that check should be a quick look with no attempt to stabilize anything. Don't grab it. So how are you going to remember to do that? Would you pass these out? They say in both Tibetan and English, relax, let go, leave be. If you are not used to wearing a bracelet and you put that on, it will bug you. And so you will glance at it from time to time or feel it bothering your wrist from time to time. And every time you notice it, check and see, is your mind still there? Quick glance at Dharmakaya nature of mind without paying any attention to what your thoughts are saying. It's obvious when you're looking at Dharmakaya nature of mind and you're not listening to the thoughts. It's completely obvious that they're without substance and duration. Notice it. Just notice. The more frequently you notice, the better. But do not attempt to maintain or extend your noticement. That will occur. You can't make it happen. You can't grab it. It's like, what do you do when a butterfly lands on your palm? Well, you don't close your fist. You'd squish it. So no grabbing at Dharmakaya. First of all, what the hell are you going to grab? Just trying to build pillars to support the sky? Wasn't there a politician that did that once? No, never mind. Questions on method?
Can the teachings themselves become an impediment to the realization of liberation since they're also thoughts?
But how would you know to look there without them? You don't think about them while you're practicing. They tell you how to practice. Unless you become overly attached to the words of them, I don't see how they would become an impediment.
It's like when you gave the example of the finger pointing at the bell. The things.
But how would you know to look at the bell if the finger didn't point?
Couldn't you just hear the bell?
I don't think so. I don't think you'd know where the sound was coming from just hearing the bell, as an analogy. I think the teachings are necessary in order to see it, but if you refuse to put down the words of the teachings and do the practice, you can impede yourself with that, but you can impede yourself with too many glasses of water too. So what is important in the teachings is that you must not cling to the words. Yes, there are people who take a profound text like this and recite it every day without paying any attention to the meaning, and that's what they call their practice. Well, that will create the cause for another life in which they will refine that text. Perhaps next time they'll listen to what it says instead of just muttering the words. That's a Tibetan trip, reciting the text instead of understanding it, instead of paying attention to it and feeling it. Westerners do have a habit, and what will be an impediment for all of you is trying to understand it. Remember that question about, can you say more about the Dharmakaya so that I know, so that I can recognize it? No. And if you take the words that have been used to point and you keep repeating those words instead of actually looking, yes, you will impede yourself by doing that. And in that way, the teachings can become an impediment. But that's a form of self-sabotage. And you can actually do it with anything. You can even do it with a mantra. I have watched people walk round and round a holy object, competing with their friends to see who can make the most rounds while saying some mantra or other that they're not paying any attention to. You ever see that? So, yeah, you can, any aspect of Dharma, if not used properly, can be an impediment. This stuff isn't safe. Come on, Dharma's not safe. Nobody ever said it was. If you thought it was, that was some kind of Western assumption. You can damage yourself with any bit of it, or impede yourself. Yeah, there are holes. It's not the holes problem if you fall in. So watch where you're putting your feet. Follow the instructions. The reason I say this is because, yes, it's dangerous. Jumping out of the second floor of a house is dangerous, but if the house is on fire, you're balancing one danger with another, and sometimes it's better to jump. Samsara is on fire. Your thoughts are driving you mad. Even though this has dangers inherent in it, it's worth it to find sanity. Other questions?
You mentioned a mistake that would land you in the God realm. What was that again?
Any meeting austerities will land you in the God realm. Any practice not done properly will land you in the God realm instead of beyond the beyond. That word enlightenment has gotten old. Sorry, guys. Yes?
What is this God realm in comparison to the beyond?
Well, it's like being Paris Hilton. Rich, blonde, and skinny, but you suffer anyway. Yeah, it looks good from the outside. I mean, you've got everything you could want materially. People really like you and they want to be your friend. You've got status. You've got everything except you're suffering anyway. That's God realms. They're very nice, like a weekend in Hawaii or in the Caribbean on some beautiful island beach. But then the weekend ends and you come home and it's Monday morning and the laundry's still not done and you got to go to work. And what the fuck you going to wear? They are mortal. They live a long time compared to us, but then we live a long time compared to mayflies. It's a matter of perspective. They die. Their old age is as unpleasant as ours or more so, because it lasts longer, that slow deterioration of the senses and everything. So that's the God realm. You really don't want to end up there, although it is better than falling into the hells. There's so much entertainment up there that nobody ever practices, even though they could. Too busy. For example, I doubt I'll ever see Paris Hilton, even though she suffers, in a Dharma teaching. She has so many other wonderful things to do. And I don't mean to pick on Paris. She's just an example of the epitome of wondrous life that has been public enough that you can see that she still suffers. Ne sumdunpe tawala, for the view. Tawa, which has these three vital points. Dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya, Nirmanakaya. Infinite, vast expanse, vital and alive, with the lively creativity of phenomena, none of which has duration. Considere gompa dang, meditation, the union of wisdom and love. Jase chi chopadro is accompanied by the action common to all bodhisattvas. Du sum gyalwe jal dur chang, were all the Buddhas to confer. Dele lakpa damnak ne, no instruction would they find greater than this. The Buddha gave 84,000 different teachings, it is said, and they all point to one single thing: no thing. Riksal Choko Tertonji, brought out as a treasure from the depths of transcendental insight. Shirab Longne Terdulang, by the tartan of Dharmakaya, the inner power of Rigpa. Sadhu Chudang Dimedra, not like ordinary treasures of earth and stone, which are useful around here, but can be lost and wear off. Garab Dorje Jalchamnin, the final testament of Garab Dorje. Garab Dorje gave this teaching after he died. His disciple, Jampalshini, was away, and Garab Dorje passed away. And finally, some days after, Jampalshini came, and Garab Dorje arose in a circular rainbow, in rainbow body form, and gave these teachings to his student Jampalshini, who has passed them down. So this is called the Testament of Garab Dorje. This is called manifestation of Dharmakaya mind for this reason. Ningi bula te doja, it is entrusted to my heart disciples sealed and secret. Jabdong yino ningi tam, it is profound in meaning, the words of my heart. Ning tam yino dongi ni, in the words of my heart, this is the crucial key. Dane yalwar madrochi, this crucial point. Don't hold it cheaply. Do not let it fall. Do not let it escape from you. Namnak jaksu maluchi. Do not allow these instructions to slip away. Kelpa Shri Jalpo Chi Su. This is the special teaching of the wise and glorious king. Questions? Practice it. This text is the key to Dzogchen. I have 3 teachings of it now up on YouTube, each of them different. First one is given in Tibetan to Tibetans, with me off in a corner translating to a couple of Westerners. So it is translated, but it's in Tibetan paradigm completely, taught by my teacher, his words. It's, I think, 5 sessions. And there's a 3-session one I did, in which somehow or other I think included the commentary. And this one, which was just the root text in a completely Western context, without any Tibetans thought to be here. So they're all different. You are remarkably and most free to listen to them. This stuff is self-secret. So it is kept secret, but you do not have to be secretive about it. However, until you have truly actualized it completely, do not attempt to explain it to anybody. You'll do them mischief. This is why we say, do not read Dzogchen texts before you receive the pointing out. Same mischief. You get all packed full of ideas and words about what it's going to be. And it's none of that. So don't spoil it for anybody else. Let them receive the pointing out from someone who has practiced it for a long, long time. And meanwhile, you become that in the next 50 years or so. Practice. Last thing Milarepa said to his student Gampopa. He stood up, lifted his robes, and showed his calloused ass. Because that's the key. Practice. Yes?
You said without this, that meditation will become just jumping from yan to yan. Am I understanding correctly that the this is without the glancing?
Without the entire gamut of what this text points at, including the becoming skillful at, if you don't become skillful at it in optimal conditions on the cushion, you're not going to manage to clearly see it while in a teenage pretzel on the couch and while the TV's blaring. So it includes all the parts of this. Seeing your true nature, actually getting the right wall to throw the darts at, and at least getting one of your dart throws occasionally on the target. You're going to call the target complete nature of mind. And then you practice, both sitting and while going about. Again and again looking, again and again seeing. Relax into it when the circumstances permit that. Don't grab it, don't try to maintain it, don't try to get something out of it. Just relax. It's like if you're tired, rest. If your brain is tired from fixing its stuff, go ahead and relax. Train yourself the habit. Look, you know how you're not a thingy, right? You're an ecology and a clump, right? There's nothing permanent about you. You're going to change. This puts you in control of the change. You choose to condition yourself, to create a habit conditioning in yourself, to no longer be fooled by the thoughts that hurt you. But you can't just get rid of the ones that hurt and not all of them, or they'll just sneak around behind. So this is how you do it. More on how they hurt you next week. But you all know that your thoughts can hurt. In fact, most of your suffering has to do with the story you've told yourself about something. Boy, about your lover. And you're trying to figure out if it's real or not, or if it's true or not, and driving yourself crazy and making up different stories. Practice. Two kinds. On the cushion and off the cushion. Eventually it will occur. You can't make this happen. That there is no difference for you between on the cushion and off the cushion. Nonetheless, continue on the cushion. The first time that happens, it's a trick. Do not put a big deal, however. Do not make a big deal about whether you're on or off the cushion. Do not reify that there is a difference. The lack of difference will naturally occur given time. But do also practice off the cushion these quick glances. If they want to last, let them last. Don't try to make them last. Other questions here? This is what your thoughts do. They spontaneously unravel themselves. You don't have to swat them. But for them to be able to spontaneously unravel themselves, you have to cut through the talk, what sticks them together. It isn't real, but it sort of is, because you stuck them together and then they're nam talk and they caught your attention and they're telling you all sorts of bullshit and you're believing it. So trekcha, cutting through, is the name of this kind of meditation, because it cuts through the talk of the nam talk, discursive thoughts in a chain that tell a story. So the way you cut through is to rest in open awareness with your attention relaxed into the vast openness of Dharmakaya nature of mind, without suppressing the thoughts, allowing them to transparently arise and vanish without paying attention to what they say. When you do that, it cuts through the talk. Therefore, it is called the practice of trekcha, cutting through. Did that make sense? It will make more sense the more you do it. I saw other questions here. Yes.
I have 2 questions. So you should go.
Okay, you go.
So, I had a lovely experience of watching the thoughts I was creating, watching traffic go along the road. And while that's happening, behind it is openness. Okay, it's great.
That's trekcha.
Then what occurs, what I've then managed to create, is a traffic jam. And the
Pet.
vehicles stop, and I can no longer see behind.
Pet.
Thank you. That's what I needed to be reminded of. Thank you so much.
My first question is, so when I'm practicing the eye relaxation, I can feel my awareness start to shift from just being like this 180 degrees to like 360. Is that the first part
Yes.
to relaxing?
That's how you will experience it, not everyone.
Okay.
But yes, that's the process by which you relax.
Okay.
We're all going to have slightly different processes. For me, it has more to do with something going on with my diaphragm and breathing. But yes, that is also a sort of that's the experience of shifting from pointedness to openness. Yes, I can't even point in enough directions because time's involved there. So yes. You had a second one?
My second question is, so if you're practicing, but you're practicing in the wrong way, then you go into the God realms. And so I guess I'm curious, I was raised in a Catholic upbringing, so I have a lot of trauma, I suppose, around like hell realms. And so I guess I'm just curious how people get there, if we all have Buddha nature, and how people get out of there.
You can constrict yourself so much that there is nothing but horror. Can you imagine? You constrict yourself, and then your environment constricts you, and then you constrict in it. What's the worst prison in Louisiana? We can think of a hell realm like that. And it's not that hard to fall in. So, Catholic has sin and virtue. do not use those words in your Buddhist practice. Use Digpa and Gewa. Think of Digpa as causing constriction, whether to yourself or others. You don't want to do that, because it will lead to more constriction and more constriction and more constriction until it becomes as constricted as being an inmate in Angola. And there are greater levels than that, although hard to imagine because it's not our realm. Conversely, the more openness, open-minded, open-hearted, the more outward turned you are, which is not the same as self-sacrificing. This whole Jesus trip where you get crucified and you're a martyr. Yeah, we don't do that. We don't got martyrs. So put down your martyr complex. Find some other way to play with that. It's a big city. There's lots of places. And when we talk of gods, we're talking of long-lived gods. Whether the Catholic one is among these or not, I don't know. I can't really address, but certainly we're talking about Demeter, the Greek gods, the Roman gods, the Norse gods, all of the Hindu gods, all of these multi-pantheon. Monotheism is a little bit beyond me. I tend to avoid it the way I avoid monogamy. So, not having been raised Catholic, Jewish, or Muslim, I don't have a lot of connection to it. I got lucky. I got raised secular humanist. So I guess that's the best answer I can give you. Did it work?
I guess my question is, so people on Earth are already living in hell realms?
They are having hell-like existences. Some. There are places. We can be analogous to those places, but there are places where it's more extreme. For instance, there's, north of Nigeria, Sudan, currently in famine. Hungry ghost realm, Preta. However, there is a realm, place, planet type place where that is even more extreme than among people because they don't die so quick. They live a whole life like that in famine. Whereas people, you know, a certain amount of too much famine and then you die. The animal realm is visible to us. The hungry ghost realm is nearby, as is the Asura realm. These are the gods that fight with each other, that are jealous gods, that say, I am the one and only God you should worship, and I will thunk you. And then they fight with each other over worshipers, and they get into wars. Like maybe the Crusades. These are considered the jealous gods. They could have everything the gods have, except they're too busy fighting with each other to have paradise on earth, to have a life like the gods. And then you have above them a layer of gods. First, the form gods. They pretty much have everything they want and they don't fight. And because you get there from Shine, that does not mature into direct seeing, You get there from that one pointed focus that if it does not mature into direct seeing, that will drop you into them. They're kind of tranced out and stoned. It's kind of like being a stoned out hippie, except you have everything you could want to munch and it doesn't make you fat. Hey man, how's it going? Life's good, yeah. So that's what we call the gods of form. Above that is the formless realms. When we say above, that's a Tibetan speak. It's not up. I mean, the planet is spinning. What do you mean up? But it's a way of speaking in hierarchical terms. Don't take it literally. Person who saw the openness and thinks it went away. No, it didn't. You just stopped looking at it. You turned your head. What, you think the sky is gone now that you're not looking up? So the formless gods, you have no form, no body. You don't think anything. Nothing happens. 84,000 eons. 84,000 is a Tibetan number that means too many to count. Nothing happens. And then you wake up because your karma has completed itself for being there. And now you're wherever the next karma leads you. So these are the God realms as we see them. They are sentient beings just like us in all these God realms, all the gods. There's really no difference from us. We could be there, they could be here. In fact, since you have had beginningless lives, you have been there. They have been here. If you manage to harm a lot of people with intent to do so, with intent to make yourself bigger, yeah, you can drop yourself, not forever, but temporarily into a hell realm. You've caused so much constriction that it's going to up and constrict you. It wears off after a while, just like the God realms do, and now you're someplace else. So did that finally answer the question? Yeah, they're all people. Some of them are just bigger than you and don't bother them because they have their own agenda. Same way you don't bother guys with guns. Don't bother the gods. I'd love to be an atheist, but I've run into too many of them to consider that. Other questions? You had a bunch come through, Nyando.
Okay. One question is, what should be the relationship between mind and breath during the meditation?
Ignore your breath. Well, your mind, are you talking Sem-ni or Sem? Person who asked that. And I don't think I can answer that question because the question is unclear. You're not paying any attention to your breath while you're doing trekcha. This meditation is named trekcha. Dzogchen meditation. That's the name of this particular Dzogchen meditation. Try me on another one.
What is the main difference between prayer and meditation? That's from one of our Georgian students.
Prayer is manlam, wish path. You are repeating out loud, you are reciting the wish that all beings achieve or be free, that they all experience happiness. You are using different known prayers or making your own up to do that. It's a very active thing. This is silent. Prayer is, you use the speech chakra, chakra of intent. So I would say that would be the outer difference. Prayer is to something. If you're even silently praying, you're praying to something. There's nothing to pray to here. This is your own mind. Next question. I'll take one or two more. So could you prioritize, Nyando?
Okay. Is Taoist alchemy similar to or compatible with Salon?
Don't know, never studied Taoist alchemy. Next question.
Do gods in formless realms also have an illusion of being separate?
They don't have anything going on. They're not even thinking. You would need to think, at least, or feel, or perceive, at least on some level, to have that illusion manifest. So no, but that's just an intellectual question. Come on, I'm asking for how to. You do those intellectual questions next week. Wish path. Prayers or recitation, the aspiration of Kuntu Zangpo, said out loud, is a prayer, is a monlam. It's not prayer like you mean prayer in the Catholic religion where you're praying to something and to get a favor. Nothing of that. Monlam is creating a pattern using the speech chakra to create a cause to benefit others. So if we say, oh, we recite the praise to the 21 Taras for our friend who is in trouble with the law, that's the most effective one to use for that. We are trying to create a pattern, an intent pattern to break the issue in samsara. So that's kind of different. Mantra is more part of yidam practice. Some mantras can be used as prayers, such as the Green Tara mantra. Other questions out here? One more how-to question if you have it, Nyando.
I think we've addressed all of the how-tos,
Okay.
the practicals.
Nge wandi nyur duda chi chi sala go par shu. May all beings recognize the true nature of their own mind, which don't fit in no words. So what can they really tell you about it? Practice. We are complete for today. If anyone out there is still wanting to sign up for that retreat, do it now. But already have practiced Chenrezig. Do be familiar with the Chenrezig practice, because we're not going to have long enough in only 4 days to put that in as deeply as it needs to be in. What else am I supposed to say here at the end? Yes. Oh, good. We had translators into lots of language. If you heard this in a language other than English, please thank your translator with an offering if you can, and with an email if you can't. Say thank you. And if any of you again wish to sponsor to merge your practice with one of our Tibetans, one of our yogis, give me a call. Don't give me a call. Drop me an email, and I will explain more. Costs about the same as a pizza and beer per month to feed a yogi in retreat. You'll come up and offer katas if you like.
You can share the copy.
Yeah, katas are all very shareable if you didn't bring your own.
So we're complete?
We are complete. Thank you, Nayando. Thank you, dear. Wait, this goes first. You offer that. Now give me your head. There we go. And this. And now you make a little